I used to think Jake was the kind of man you build your life around. We met during our last year of college. He had this charm, steady, comforting, like a calm sea I could finally float on after years of chaos. At first, he made me feel like I was the only person in the world who mattered. He brought me coffee in the mornings, left notes in my textbooks, kissed my forehead before every exam. I remember one night in particular, wrapped up in his hoodie on the couch, my head on his chest. I looked up and said, "Promise me you'll never stop loving me." And he whispered, "Never." For the first 2 years I believed him. Everything felt like a dream. Our first apartment, late-night grocery trips, dancing in the kitchen with pasta boiling over. But slowly the magic started fading. I brushed it off at first. Everyone said it's normal. Love changes, gets quieter. But this didn't feel like quiet, it felt like absence. Jake began working later hours. He'd leave early and come home past midnight. No more forehead kisses. No more spontaneous text. Just silence and excuses. "Busy day," he'd say, barely glancing up from his phone. I told myself he was tired. I even started working more myself, just to match his energy. Maybe if I looked as busy as he did, he wouldn't seem so far away. Then came the little things. He started hiding his phone more. He changed his passcode. He'd smile at messages but turn the screen away when I looked. He never used to care who saw his screen. I asked him once, jokingly, who was making him blush like a teenager. He laughed too loud and said it was just a meme from work. That was when I started noticing the lies. Not big ones but cracks in the truth. He said he had dinner with coworkers, but he came home smelling like perfume. He said he was at the gym, but the gym bag stayed untouched by the door. I started to feel invisible, like a ghost in my own relationship. I tried to fix things. Planned dates, bought new lingerie, made his favorite meals. He always had a reason to skip. Too tired. Too busy. Headache. Something urgent came up. I asked him if he was happy. He looked me dead in the eye and said, "Of course I am. You're just overthinking again." And maybe I was. Maybe I was clinging to a version of him that no longer existed. But then I'd remember that night on the couch, when I asked him to never stop, and I'd convince myself that kind of love doesn't just vanish. Can't. Still, every night I went to bed a little more unsure. Not just of him but of myself. My instincts. My worth. Something was slipping and I didn't know how to catch it. Or if it was even worth holding on to anymore. The moment I knew something was truly wrong, I found a coffee mug in his car's cup holder. Lipstick. A shade I'd never wear. I sat there, holding it, trying to breathe through the nausea rising in my throat. I didn't say anything that night. I needed more than a mug to confirm what my gut already screamed. 2 days later, his phone lit up with a message while he was in the shower. The name on the screen was Liam. But the message read, "Last night was perfect. I can still feel you." My hand shook. I opened the thread. It wasn't Liam. It was a woman named Liv. Her texts were filled with hearts, with memories of hotel rooms, secret lunches, inside jokes I'd never heard before. Photos. Him kissing her neck. Her in his shirt. My heart cracked, not just from the betrayal, but from how deep it ran. This wasn't a mistake. This was a second life he was living. One with desire, with attention, with passion. All the things he stopped giving to me. Still, I didn't confront him right away. I watched. I listened. I tracked his patterns. He said he was working late. I followed him one night. He wasn't at the office. He wasn't even in the same part of town. I saw him pick her up. I saw them kiss at a red light. I saw my entire relationship collapse in real time. When he got home that night, I acted like nothing was wrong. I asked how work went. He lied without hesitation. That's when it hurt the most. Not the affair itself, but how easy it was for him to look me in the eye and lie. I started noticing how much effort he gave to her. The words he used. The flirtation. The warmth. He used to talk to me like that. He used to light up when I walked into a room. Now I was just part of the background. One night, I laid awake next to him, staring at the ceiling. I kept hearing the echo of my voice from years ago. Never stop loving me. And it hit me. He didn't stop. He just redirected it. He kept loving. Just not me. I cried silently that night. Not because he broke my heart, but because I realized I had been mourning a relationship that had already died long before I knew it. He had just buried it without telling me. And the worst part, I still loved him. Even after everything I'd seen. Even knowing he gave himself to someone else, I still wanted to be wrong. I still wished I could unsee it. But the truth was undeniable now. The man I loved didn't exist anymore. Maybe he never really did. I waited until I felt nothing. Not anger, not pain, just clarity. He walked in, tossed his keys like it was any other day. I told him we needed to talk. He looked annoyed, not concerned. That told me everything before I even started. I said her name. Liv. He froze. For the first time the mask cracked. I told him about the texts, the photos, the night I followed him. His mouth opened, closed. Then he shook his head like he could erase what I knew. He said it wasn't what it looked like. I asked him if he really thought I was that stupid. He didn't deny it. He just dropped into a chair, buried his face in his hands and muttered, "I messed up." I stood there waiting. Not for an apology. I'd already heard his rehearsed guilt. I wanted truth. Raw and ugly. He said it started a few months ago. He felt unseen. Like we were just roommates. She made him feel wanted. I laughed at the irony. I spent months begging him to come back to me, to see me. I made plans, effort, tried everything. And he gave all of that to someone else. He said he never meant to hurt me. That he still loved me. That he didn't know how to stop. And I said, I begged you to never stop loving me. You didn't stop. You just gave it away to someone else like I never mattered. He started crying, but it didn't move me. He wanted forgiveness without consequence. Love without loyalty. He said we could fix this. Told him no. You don't fix something by pretending it didn't fall apart. I asked him when he planned to tell me. He said he wasn't sure. That maybe it would have ended eventually. That he didn't want to lose both of us. That was the moment I realized he never had to choose, because I was always a constant. The one who stayed. The one who forgave. The one who believed. I wasn't angry. I was numb. Like I'd finally stepped out of a burning house and could breathe again. I told him I was done. Not because I stopped loving him, but because I loved myself more. He reached for my hand. Pulled away. I told him, this isn't about her. This is about you. About the man you chose to become when I wasn't looking. He begged. He promised. He said all the right things too late. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I packed what I needed and walked out. It wasn't a dramatic exit. No final words. Just silence. The kind that doesn't ask for closure because it already has it. He broke something he can't put back. And I have nothing left to give to someone who spent so long giving it to someone else. 6 months later, the silence feels different. Not empty, clean. I live in a smaller place now. No shared furniture. No ghost of a man who once said forever and meant a few years. I don't wake up expecting to be lied to. I don't wait for calls that never come. The pain doesn't hit like it used to. It's quieter now. Dull around the edges. Manageable. I started therapy. At first I thought I'd just vent about the cheating, but it went deeper than that. I learned how much of myself I gave up to keep that relationship alive. How often I shrank so he wouldn't feel small. How many times I accepted half-truths because I was scared of the whole one. I learned that love, real love, doesn't require begging. Doesn't feel like anxiety. It doesn't make you doubt your own mind. People ask if I've forgiven him. I haven't. But I've stopped bleeding over what he did. That's enough for now. Forgiveness is overrated when someone shows no real remorse. I read his email 3 weeks ago. He wrote about how empty life feels without me. How he dreams of fixing it, proving himself. How he finally realizes what he lost. He ended it with, I still love you. I never stopped. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened another message. From someone I met after everything fell apart. Friend who became a safe space. No flirting, no pressure. Just presence. We've talked for hours without pretending. He never makes me feel like I have to earn attention. Maybe it's just friendship. Maybe it could be more. But this time I'm not rushing. I'm not filling a void. I'm choosing peace over chaos. I still have moments where I miss the comfort of the past. But I remind myself, comfort isn't always love. Sometimes it's just familiarity. And familiarity kept me stuck in a place I had already outgrown. What I thought was love turned out to be convenience on one side and desperation on the other. Now I go days without thinking about Jake. When I do, it's not anger, it's detachment. He became a lesson, not a chapter one want to reread. I don't fantasize about revenge or wish him pain. I just want distance. And I have it now. I think back to that night when I said, "Never stop loving me." And I finally understand. He didn't stop. He just stopped loving me the way I deserved. He kept going. Without guilt, without hesitation. He didn't pause to see what it cost me. But I did stop. I stopped waiting. Stopped justifying. Stopped breaking my own heart just to believe his was still intact. I don't beg anymore. Not for love. Not for effort. Not for loyalty. If someone can't give it freely, I don't want it. He kept loving. I just wasn't the one he chose to give it to. Now, choose myself. Every single time.